Hello guys, it's Ivonbeton here. I'm bringing you another video guide. This one is gonna be a bit different than the previous video guides because it's not exactly an SSF friendly build. It's probably hardcore friendly. I haven't played in hardcore. I think I died like 30 times, which, I mean, it may seem like a lot, but considering I was doing tier 16s at level 74 or something and rocking a whopping 4k health, I think it's hardcore viable because you wouldn't be doing that in hardcore. Um, yeah, so it's just not SSF friendly because it's basically based on these two swords. I got a little bit lucky. I got a good gem from Sirius, and I used it to fund this character. The sword dropped a lot in price. I paid 30 exalts for it. I think it's only 15 now. So, but the only reason I made this character is to play with this sword and this one. So it's not exactly SSF friendly. This one's also difficult to craft. This one also not that easy to get because there's the enchant on it. I bought the base. I crafted the helm myself. This is also not easy to get. I got lucky. I bought it and I crafted the life on top of it. This one's also not too easy to get. This is something I bought. This is craftable, but also very difficult. So again, I bought it. Okay, this one I crafted, this one I crafted, and this one I crafted. Still, I mean, only 1, 2, 3, 4 items crafted and the rest bought, so I wouldn't call this I found, so I wouldn't call it as a friendly. Still, it's a fun build, so as far as I can tell, a lot of people are still trying to figure out how to play the Saviour and still fine-tuning their builds. So I figured I'd share mine, and maybe it's helpful to some people, who knows. This will be a short guide. I'll quickly go over the Ascendancy choice, the passive tree, the skills, the gear, and I'll show a bit of gameplay so you can decide whether you want to play something like this or not. This was actually personally my first time playing Flicker Strike. As you can see, it's Flicker Strike Cyclone build. Here's Cyclone in the 6th link for single target, and Flicker Strike in a 4 link for clear. This was actually my first time playing Flicker Strike, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. Like, it's a really fun skill. It has amazing clear speed, but while it also makes you feel like a bit of a god, you also feel a bit spastic because it's just you're flying all over the place and you don't actually, most of the time you don't know what's going on. It's really easy. You just hold down your Flicker Strike, your whatever button you have bound to it, and you just keep going. Aside from that, it's fun, but there's also a lot of bugs. Like I crash once or twice a day, and I've lost a Cassia and a Zana mission to it, which was not fun at all. But usually it's not too bad. Just this, I don't know why the skill just makes you crash for some reason. Also, you can like Flicker Strike over a wall and end up in the darkness if you're delving, which can be a bit of a problem. But I haven't actually died to that yet, so it's I mean, it's just minor annoyances, let's call it that. So I'm actually quite happy with the character overall. I started as a berserker. I thought about Slayer. I tried strike skills at first because, you know, Flicker Strike is a strike skill, and you have I'm using gauntlets which have strike skills, target 1 additional nearby enemy. I have Tribal Fury anointed on my amulet, which does exactly the same thing. So I started out trying strike skills and other ascendancies, but personally I found that with how extremely deadly a lot of the content is this league, Berserker was too squishy. Slayer is okay, I guess, but it gives a lot more damage, but I think it's a lot less tanky than Champion. And overall just Cyclone, because it's, in my opinion, the the strongest melee skill at the moment, and while it may not be a strike skill, I think that with this build I found the perfect balance between boosting both the instant damage of the Flicker strike skill and the more continued AoE damage of the Cyclone skill. So let me quickly go over firstly the Ascendancy. There we go. It's champion, of course, as I said. First, you will go up to Conqueror and Worthy Foe. That's a no-brainer. It's a lot of damage and a lot of damage reduction. So these were crazy good Ascendancy points. Then Master of Metal, which is in my opinion also a no-brainer, because you are using the Saviour sword, which creates clones of yourself, and this one boosts the damage of your allies. So this, in my opinion, is also a no-brainer. Then the last 2 points are a bit debatable. I've seen some people claim Inspirational is great. I've seen people play Cyclone builds with first to strike, last to fall. I think this one's great for hardcore. I think this one is more quality of life. I guess if you're good with using your banners, and if you really want the movement speed, this one is great. But honestly, in my opinion, Flicker Strike doesn't need help with movement speed. It needs a tiny bit of help with damage. So that's why I went with Unstoppable Hero. It gives me some damage and it gives me more armor and evasion. I mean, they cannot be stunned while you have Fortified is also very handy with Flicker Strike, but it's not that important because you're just jumping all over the place and not really getting hit all that much usually. It still helped me survive a few times though, I have to say. And this is actually also the reason why I linked Fortify to my Flicker Strike. As you see, it's almost level 20. Because a lot of people put Brutality with their Flicker Strike, which makes sense because it's, I think I have it here, as you can see, it's a very high multiplier. I still have to corrupt these gems, by the way. Yeah, it's a very high multiplier and probably one of the highest melee multipliers. But what I've found is that if you're using Flicker Strike to clear with Brutality instead of like this, with Brutality, then of course you want to Fortify unless you occasionally Cyclone with your Fortify. Like Cyclone also has Fortify linked, so to me that was a big issue, because you won't have Fortify, which is a huge defensive bonus, and you will get occasionally stunned. So and you will also not have the damage boost from Unstoppable Hero. So while Brutality gives a bit more damage, ultimately I found that actually linking Fortify, it gives about the same damage because you use Unstoppable Hero and you use Rampart, which also increases your Fortify. It gives about the same damage as Brutality while giving you a constant uptime of Fortify. So that's why I took Unstoppable Hero and why I linked Fortify to my Flicker Strike, and I've been really happy with that choice. And I think you can argue that it's the best option for this kind of build. Okay, so that's the Ascendancy. Let me quickly go over the passive tree. Well, it's basically your typical dual-wield crit strike. There's nothing too much out of the ordinary. The only noteworthy things are that I potted to Fatal Blade and Herbalism. A lot of people would probably anoint Fatal Blade, but anointing Tribal Fury and getting a strike skills target one additional nearby enemy on your gloves, these two basically make your Flicker Strike a 5-link, because it's sort of like Ancestral Call. So I think that's worth it, because I mean, clearing T16s with Flicker Strike is with all the current life modifiers, the awakening bonus, things can get very tanky, and this really does help. So I chose to path to Fatal Blade, which is a very strong node, and allocate Tribal Fury. Aside from that, a Watcher's Eye with your hits intimidate enemies for 4 seconds while you're using Pride. I don't have much use for the second one, the Zealotry. It's probably some builds which would love this duel. There are other things you can get, something with Pride probably. I'm not using Precision, so that's another option. Then Champion of the Cause. The reason why I use this is because if you don't have enough mana to cast Flicker Strike twice. As you can see, it costs 29 mana, and I have 67 unreserved mana. So with Champion of the Cause, I can cast Flicker Strike twice, which is a huge quality of life for me. I don't have to wait around for the leech to get me up to 30 for a new Flicker Strike. Well, actually, I'm using a Enduring Divine Mana Flask at the moment, which is absolutely not necessary. I've been too lazy to get Mana Leech, but you can get actually Mana Leech from here easily. Just allocate 1 point. But I intend, like right now I have physical attack damage, leeches life, just to get a jewel like this with Mana Leech instead, and you'll be golden. You don't need this flask, you can pick up something else. I'm not sure which one. Probably a silver flask. Just get a silver flask here and a diamond flask here, and you're good to go. I'm just still leveling the build, and I've been a bit lazy with the flasks. I just decided to put out this guide because I think some people might enjoy this build. Okay, aside from that, Champion of the Cause, Rampart. These are all fairly standard. I think not all builds pick Soul of Steel, but considering we are using... Wait, where is my Molten Shell? I swear I'm using... Okay, considering I'm using Molten Shell, the extra armor and the elemental resist, and it's very much worth it. I think if I fortify right now, I'm at 6,600 armor, but if I have fortify, I'm at 12,000 or something. And your Molten Shell caps at 10,000, so that's perfect. Aside from that, Transcendent Flesh. I forgot what the cheaper one is called, but there's a cheaper one. Yeah, you just suck at it here. That's pretty normal, pretty standard for this kind of build. Not a lot of people pick up Gladiator's Perseverance, I guess. It just gives me some extra leech and increased leech, so I really like these nodes. As you can see, I'm not pathing past File Pact for these cheap ass nodes, so I chose to take this one, and then okay, this is the wrong jewel. I need one with leech as mana, but I'm getting one and switching out my mana flask. Yeah, so I really like these nodes. That's basically it. I have 30 intelligence here and a lot of intelligence on my amulet, because you basically need 212 dexterity for Paradoxica, and you need 111 intelligence for infused channeling. Unless you have a 2120, I don't know, I think that's 114 maybe. I'm not sure. But you can of course skip out on this gem, but I found out that with how good it is, it's worth one passive node. I've been theory crafting it in POB, and the infused channeling thing is just worth it, even if it costs an extra passive node. Okay, that's basically the passive tree. Very standard. I will share it in the comments as well, in the description. Sorry. Let's quickly go over the skills, or maybe first the gear. Yeah. So basically, it's very simple. Paradoxica and the Saviour. Which Paradoxica you get is up to you. The 10% to trigger level 1 blood rage is not really all that necessary. Just get one with high physical damage. Attack speed, okay, it's good for the Cyclone, it's not that good for the Flicker Strike. I like that I have the 20 chance to impale enemies on hit with attacks. If you can't get that, it's not that big of a deal, but yeah, just try to get one if you can. The helm, well, basically I bought a cheap armor base. Well, cheap was 1 exalt armor base with the, this is not the highest tier Cyclone attack speed. I bought one with the next thing, and I then crafted this helmet. If you can't get the base, just craft the helmet, which has life and nearby enemies take increased physical damage, because ultimately I think the single target is fine. You're using a 6-link Cyclone. I mean, it's not like it melts. Well, yeah, it kind of does melt things, but it's your Flicker Strike that needs help. So I think the nearby enemies take increased physical damage is way more important than the Cyclone attack speed. You could even get a Flicker Strike enchant if you want. So just craft this. It's pretty easy to do. Use Pristine and Jagged, and you got it. Hope for an open suffix so you can craft some resists, because the build kinda struggles with resists. This is a very important part of the build. You need a chest with killed enemies explode, dealing 3% of their life as physical damage. As you can see, it's a Crusader's mod, so you need a chest with a Crusader influence. Preferably, of course, an Astral Plate for extra resist, and preferably with some life and resists extra. As you can see, I have quite a bit of life extra thanks to the strength, and I have a bit of resist. But I mean, if you really can't afford it, just get one with that has basically just that modifier and craft life on it or something, because it's crucial to the build. The build won't really work without it. Okay, the amulet. Yeah, here's the thing though, I think Cyclone works without the channeling costs. I've just been too lazy and stupid to not get Mana Leech. I didn't figure it out until too late. I kept wondering why my mana wouldn't come back. I'm gonna check it out later, but I don't think you need it. So what you're mostly looking for is Dexterity, Intelligence, and then crit chance, multi, life, and preferably also physical damage to attacks. The thing is, a good physical damage to attacks amulet really makes an amulet expensive, so if you can't get it, don't worry about it. Maybe get one with an open prefix so you can craft it. It's not a big deal, the build does plenty of damage without it. Yeah, this is just a ring to fill out resists and to craft and some dexterity and to craft the mana cost, which I don't think I need. This is also another crucial part of the build. As you can see, it's a shaping modifier. The curse enemies with level 8 or whatever, it doesn't matter what level, Assassin's Mark on hit. Of course, preferably the higher the better, but just having that one alone is ideal. Get one like this. A diamond ring is perfect. If you need more resists, get maybe a 2-stone ring like this, or get a vermilion ring for extra life. That's also nice. Ideally, you want, of course, life on it and physical damage to attacks. There are other options, of course, if you can get attack speed on it, but that's gonna be rare because that's gonna be a specific essence craft, I think. Yeah, something like this. Just preferably the most important part is the current enemies with level 8 Assassin's Mark on hit and the life. Whatever extra you can get is just a bonus. The Stygian Vice is there to fill out the life, the resist, and I have an increased damage craft. Chaos Resist is really handy this league, so if you can get it, it's fine. If you don't get it, the build really does very well against Chaos damage. It's not that big of a deal. I use a gem with some extra intelligence and some extra physical damage and some extra life. I mean, you can go with whatever here, but I needed the intelligence personally. If you have plenty of resists, which I somehow doubt, but it's possible, you can also, and if you have plenty of life, you can also maybe take a soul tether for overleach, but I don't think it's necessary for survivability. Another important part of this build is like hunter influenced gloves. As you can see, it has prefix modifier hunters, strike skills target one additional nearby enemy. Again, an armor base because you need armor, preferably with dexterity or intelligence, a bit of resist and some life, something like this. If you can get this as spiked gloves, you are a god and you have an amazing item for this build. Also this here as the allocation, of course, Tribal Fury. I've said it before, but I'll just say it again. Strike skills target one additional nearby enemy. Tribal Fury. Killed enemies explode, dealing 3% of their life as physical damage. Those are essential parts of the build, aside from the weapons. And then finally the boots, just for me, just armor, life, resist, and some movement speed. That's all you need. Flask, granite flask, these are all wrong. Just get a Lion's Roar granite flask, silver flask, a diamond flask, and a quicksilver flask, and a life flask. I know a lot of people prefer the bubbling flasks, but I like these ones because I kind of use my life flasks preemptively, so I don't use them in reaction. I use them preemptively. That's basically the gear, most of it. I'll quickly go over the skills. Again, Flicker Strike, Multi-Strike is a must. Awakened melee splash support, just take the regular melee splash support if you don't want to spend too much currency on the gems. And Fortify, I've explained why. The second thing is Cyclone, Infused Channeling. You can change this for anything else, like melee physical, or well, what else? Pulverize is also a good option, but I chose Infused Channeling for the, even though it costs more intelligence on my gear and passive tree, but I chose it because it's a huge boost and it's also a huge defensive boost. Brutality, of course, one of the best support gems for melee. Fortify, because, well, Fortify and a champion you do a lot more damage. Impale, because, well, Impale is kind of mandatory at the moment for melee. And a Close Combat, because, well, you will not ever be anywhere away from an enemy, you will always be next to them. Okay, this is just my auras. This is Pride, Enlighten, 3, level 3. 4 is better, of course, but that's really expensive. Blood and Sand, Dread Banner, Leap Slam, Faster Attacks, and Blood Magic. You don't really need Blood Magic. I like it that way. It's more of a quality of life than anything. Increased duration, cast when damage taken, Foul Molten Shell, all max level, because well, Foul Molten Shell with 12k armor is amazing, and I love it. This is your vile molten shell. This will automate your regular molten shell, and you can still use your vile molten shell as an emergency button. This is just main with flesh and stone because, well, that's a great combo. And blood rage. Here I have an immortal call. This is completely unrelated to the build. I had an amazing idea to put in here, something amazing for the build, but I forgot what it was. So I hope I remember what it was at some point. What you could do is put a frenzy here so you can keep your frenzy charges alive while doing the boss. But I had a better idea, I just forgot what it was. So for now this is a useless socket. That's basically it. Just remember, like I personally, the flesh and stone, the sand stance it blinds nearby enemies. So this is great defensively. The irony is that this is supposed to be your damage stance, but personally I use this for clearing because it's. I mean, this is also great because of the AoE of Blood and Sand, but I actually use this for clearing because it gives more damage to my Flicker Strike. And most of the time I use Sand Stance for Metamorphs or tough bosses because it's more defensively. Unless it's like a Conqueror where I can like outplay the boss, which isn't really possible with Metamorphs, then of course I use Blood Stance. Yeah. Also, one more last thing of note is that the multi-strike is really important for this build. If you can get an awakened multi-strike, then you are going to do a lot of damage. Is it just I don't have the currency? I spend it all on my last two characters, and actually most of it was funded by an awakened multi-strike. So a regular multi-strike will do fine. But the reason why this is so good is because of Impale, and yeah, because I mean it's always good with Flicker Strike, but with Champion, which kind of works around Impale, and with Impale in general, with how it works, multi-strike is really good linked to Flicker Strike. Okay, that was more than I had anticipated. I hope this is of use to someone. I will add rough timestamps, so if you're unclear about certain things, you can go back and review it. And I will try maybe to supplement the video with some gameplay footage. This is an empty map actually, so okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.